Argentina assumes the pro tempore presidency of Mercosur for the next 6 months. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov denied accusations about the alleged poisoning of Russian opposition leader Alexie Navalny. A new swarm of locusts is threatening the agricultural and pastoral livelihood and food security of millions of people in the Horn of Africa and Yemen. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. Argentina assumes the pro tempore presidency of Mercosur for the next 6 months. President Alberto Fernandez's inauguration as the highest authority of Mercosur will take place during the summit of heads of state of the countries that make up the bloc. On the eve of the summit, the Argentine dignitary announced his willingness to restore the unity of Mercosur and to favor the entry of other states as full members, as is the case of Bolivia, in order to improve political understanding and to move forward with economic cooperation in the region.
Argentina, as always, bets on the region as the key to comprehensive human development, and Mercosur is the most important regional political project. For our country, it is a state policy, and we feel that it is a vocation of our people. That is why I want to share with you the dream of a different Mercosur. A Mercosur that is the flagship of sustainable development, technological innovation, and above all, social inclusion.
In Chile, workers in the health sector carry out a new national strike in order to demand from the government a better budget for the health sector in 2021. As part of the strike, health workers are holding demonstrations to demand the government of Sebastián Piñera to improve salaries and labor conditions in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. The National Confederation of Municipal Health Workers, together with the National Confederation of Public Health Workers and other unions, led the day of protests, which are taking place in several cities around the country. The Senate of Chile approved a reform that reserves seats for members of the indigenous peoples in the Constituent Convention that will draft the country's new constitution. The 155-seat Constituent Assembly will include 7 seats for the Mapuche people, 2 for the Aymara people, and 1 for 8 other communities. Also, a regulation was approved that requires political parties to have 5% of candidates with disabilities. However, a seat reserved for Afro-descendants was not approved due to the government's rejection of the proposal. Let's remember that the constitute process began last October 25th, when through a referendum, 78% of the voters voted in favor of a new constitution. In Colombia, social, indigenous and campesino movements denounce arbitrary detentions of several of their leaders. They claim that this situation is part of a campaign of persecution promoted by the government of President Iván Duque. Social leaders Eófilo Acuña, Adelso Gallo and Robert Daza of the Committee for the Integration of the Colombian Mountains in Nariño were arrested this Tuesday afternoon. Adelso was arrested in Villavicencio with an arrest warrant issued by a judge in Santa Marta, while Acuña, who serves as a spokesperson for the Interlocution Commission of Southern Bolívar, Central and Southern Cesar, was arrested in the municipality of Barranco de Loba. The movements and organizations that denounce the arrest point out that these detentions are the results of judicial plots used by the government to persecute, criminalize, and stigmatize the social movement in the country. In Ecuador, 5 inmates died and a guard was injured during a riot at the La Tacunga prison. The National Service for Integral Attention to Persons Deprived of Liberty reported on the riot that took place in one of the main detention centers in the country, in which 5 inmates died as a result of aggressions with handcrafted knives. Prison authorities indicated that the incident was caused by power struggles between criminal organizations, emphasizing that the lack of security personnel hinders immediate response actions to mitigate these riots. Brazil's Attorney General's office initiated an investigation to determine the alleged and illegal use by President Jair Bolsonaro of intelligence services in the defense of his son in a corruption case. The Federal Supreme Court of Brazil granted a period of 24 hours to the Minister of Institutional Security, Augusto Heleno Ribeiro, and to the Director of the Brazilian Intelligence Agency, Alexandre Ramagem, to clarify the alleged preparation of reports that guided Senator Flavio Bolsonaro's lawyers in an attempt to get him out of a corruption case. President Bolsonaro's eldest son was accused of criminal organization, embezzlement, money laundering, and misappropriation during his time as a regional deputy for Rio de Janeiro. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov described as poor the accusations about the alleged poisoning by the government of Russia and opposition leader Alexie the West's lack of ethics for blaming the Russian government for the poisoning of an opposition leader. Lavrov made the statements during his visit to Croatia. The head of Russian diplomacy said that Moscow is used to intense incriminations by the United States and other Western countries through the media. For its part, Russian doctors have not detected any traces of toxins in the bloods of the Russian politician.
В которой эти новости преподносят.
In Russia, health personnel are receiving the Sputnik V vaccine on Wednesday as part of its continued rollout across the country. On Tuesday, authorities said that vaccination against COVID-19 with Russian-developed treatment has started in all regions. According to the vaccine developers, over 150,000 people in Russia have already been vaccinated. Health Minister Mikhail Murashko said the vaccine was being delivered to all regions of the country and the shots are being administered in over 1,200 medical facilities across the country. Medical workers, teachers and social workers are the first in line to get the vaccine. To this date, Russia registers over 2.7 million COVID-19 cases and nearly 48,000 fatalities. A new study from the United Kingdom suggests that a quarter of the world's population will not have access to coronavirus vaccines until at least 2022. According to a study published by the British Medical Journal, the logistical challenges of the world coronavirus vaccination program will be as difficult as those the scientific community has faced in developing the vaccine. A second study published in the same journal estimates that about 3,700 million adults worldwide are willing to be vaccinated, which leaders to need to design equitable strategies to cover all the demands in countries with less developed economies. Chinese research centers agreed that the final number of vaccine recipients will vary proportionally in different geographical regions. And several European countries tightened restrictions, and Germany registered a record death toll on the first day of its new lockdown Wednesday, as the United States set a new daily record of COVID-19 infections. Several European countries on Wednesday imposed tighter coronavirus restrictions ahead of Christmas. Swathes of England came under stricter curbs, and Denmark extended its restrictions. France and Turkey have also announced restrictions over the holiday season, and on Tuesday, the Netherlands shut down schools and non-essential shops for 5 weeks. Germany also closed non-essential shops and schools on Wednesday, as its Robert Koch Institute announced that a record of 952 people had died of coronavirus in the previous 24 hours.
Far fewer people on the streets, and more people wear masks, especially on public transport. I go to work, that's why I am outside, otherwise I would have stayed at home.
To be honest, it doesn't make much difference to us. We had planned to do a preventive quarantine with the children anyway, because we want to celebrate Christmas with the grandparents. And France's government spokesperson confirmed on Wednesday that the country's coronavirus vaccine strategy will begin with 1 million nursing home residents.
First phase of vaccination will apply to older people, nursing home residents. It will involve 1 million people. The goal this spring, before summer and after the people in nursing home, is to vaccinate older, vulnerable people who are not in nursing homes with comorbidity, and this will involve at spring around 15 million of our fellow citizens. We are working with other European countries and notably our neighbors on a coordinated campaign that will allow a simultaneous start. There was a meeting of health ministers yesterday on a French initiative to work on this coordination and so that we can effectively start this vaccination campaign in the same time in these countries.
And Tokyo reported 678 new cases of the coronavirus on Wednesday, a new high for the Japanese capital. Experts say serious cases are on the rise, burdening hospitals and making it difficult for them to carry out ordinary treatment for other patients. Japan has never had a total lockdown, but asked businesses to close and people to work from home after the government issued a national state of emergency in April. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga announced plans to suspend the government's travel promotion campaign nationwide from December 28th to January 11th, following a series of media surveys showing sharp decline in his support ratings.
Today's new infection cases in Tokyo was 678, which is the highest ever. An average number of people in hospitals has also surpassed 502. We must continue to be highly cautious. The central government will continue working with metropolitan government closely. We kindly ask the nation and residents in Tokyo to follow basic antiviral measures.
On Wednesday, Pope Francis encouraged people across the world to think about the real Christmas, with the holiday said to be limited by the coronavirus restrictions in many countries.
I would like to encourage everyone to hurry up towards Christmas, the real one, that is, the birth of Jesus Christ. This year we expect restrictions and inconveniences, but let's think about the Christmas of the Virgin Mary and Saint Joseph. It was not all roses and flowers. How many difficulties they had, how many worries, yet faith, hope and love have guided them and supported them. May it be so for us too. May this difficulty help us to purify a little the way of living Christmas, of celebrating, getting away from consumerism. May Christmas be more religious, more authentic, truer.
And we have more stories coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. A new generation of desert locust swarms is threatening the agricultural and pastoral livelihoods and food security of millions of people in the Horn of Africa and Yemen, despite intensive efforts to control the plague through 2020. This was confirmed by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations.
Since the beginning of the year, we've been supporting the government. We've been contributing to the effort led by the government, and what we see is that we have been treating over 660,000 hectares of land. And as a result, we have protected the crops of about 10 million people, who will therefore have enough food to feed themselves for 1 year. And we have protected also the pasture of about 3 million pastoralists, who therefore depend on livestock for their livelihood. This is important because this is taking place in a country where the level of acute food insecurity is already quite high.
The Iranian government identified the direct perpetrators of the murder of the Iranian scientist Mohsen Faridazad. Authorities of the National Security and Foreign Policy Commission of the Iranian parliament informed that the identities of all the material authors of the attack in which the nuclear scientist Mohsen Faridazad lost his life are already known and highlighted that some of them are already in custody. The parliamentarians also said that during the investigation they found evidence of the involvement of Israel and the United States in the events, as well as evidence that satellite-guided smart weapons and lasers belonging to the NATO were used in the attack of November 27. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani said Wednesday that he was not excited about U.S. President-elect Joe Biden taking office, more that outgoing President Donald Trump will soon be gone.
People ask if we are excited about President-elect Joe Biden. No, we are not excited Mr. Biden is taking office, but we are very happy President Donald Trump is gone. Trump that has committed so many crimes, he was an assassin and a terrorist. He doesn't even show mercy when it comes to vaccine. He makes it difficult for us to buy vaccines. Yes, he is free of all moral and human values. Meanwhile, the upcoming U.S. administration can choose what to do. The path is open. It is up to them if they are grateful or ungrateful. If they want the right path, it is ready. If they want the wrong path, that one is ready for them as well.
And the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Wednesday described U.S. sanctions imposed on Turkey over its purchase of Russian air defense systems as an attempt to obstruct Turkey's rising defense industry.
Very clearly that since 2017, that on the issue of CAATSA, the CAATSA has been imposed on no country apart from Turkey. As a NATO member, it is being applied against our country for the first time. What kind of an alliance is this? This decision is an open attack on the sovereign rights of our country. The real aim is to block the progress that our country has lately begun in the defense industry and make us strictly dependent on them. We will work twice as hard as in the past to make our defense industry independent in every aspect. We will hasten projects that our presidency of defense industries has undertaken. We will provide even greater support to our defense industry companies.
On Wednesday, the Taliban carried out a deadly attack on a police checkpoint in Afghanistan's northern Baghlan province. Provincial Police Chief spokesperson Jawed Basharat said an investigation was underway into the attack. The Taliban has unleashed a wave of attacks in Afghanistan, striking in northern Baghlan and southern Uruzgan province late on Tuesday and early Wednesday. Officials said at least 19 members of the Afghan security forces and 11 Taliban fighters were killed in fierce battles.
Armed Taliban in Wazir Abdad area attacked our checkpoint from different positions. Some of our security personnel got martyred and wounded. There are big casualties among the government opposition as well. This morning at around 4 or 5 o'clock, we admitted 5 wounded and received 13 martyred in this hospital. The wounded personnel are under emergency care.
China on Wednesday called on Australia to address China's concerns in trade disputes between the two countries and take concrete actions to reverse the discriminative policies on Chinese companies.
Regarding the relevant trade dispute cases between China and Australia, we have previously stated China's position. The question you mentioned about Australia's move to file a WTO suit against China's tariff on barley, you can refer to the competent Chinese authorities for clarification. We have repeatedly said that Australia's discriminative practices against Chinese companies do not conform to the relevant international practice. We hope Australia will address China's concerns seriously and take practical actions to reverse their wrongdoing.
And Fijians living in the path of an approaching super cyclone were told to hunker down at home or flee to emergency shelters immediately on Wednesday, as authorities warn the storm has the potential to uproot buildings and cause mass destruction. The Fiji Meteorological Service said Cyclone Yasa has intensified to a top-of-the-scale Category 5 storm, with devastating gusts of up to 280 kilometers per hour. The Fiji Meteorological Service said Cyclone Yasa had intensified to a top-of-the-scale Category 5 storm, with devastating gusts of up to 280 kilometers per hour. It was on track to hit Fiji late Thursday, and the National Disaster Management Office said around two-thirds of the island nation's population of 900,000 are in its path. In the capital Suva on Wednesday, residents tried their best to board up windows and storefronts, while others lodged bags filled with vital provisions through already flooded streets. National Disaster Management Office Director Vasily Soko urged anyone who doubted their home's structural integrity to prioritize survival over protecting their property and escape right away. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.